Well, hello and welcome to this week's episode. In this week's episode, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite topics. You guys know that I'm obsessed with healthy love, and I'm also obsessed with healthy boundaries. So this week's episode is going to be all about how the truth is that healthy love requires boundaried love. And really, we've been sold a bill of goods. So for those of you who follow my career, you know what I'm doing. Boundary Bootcamp season has begun. This is kicking it off. So if you're interested in learning about healthy boundaries, how to draw them, how not to draw unhealthy boundaries, join me because I'm going to be doing a whole series of videos for the next 6 weeks, all based around boundaries and teaching you guys how to actually do it so you can have the love that you want in your life. So let's talk about how we've been sold a bill of goods. Entertainment business wants to make you think that real love has no boundaries. There are no bounds to real love, right? When people are deeply in love, that isn't true. So from Love Story, which was in the 1970s, Ali MacGraw's famous lame line, which is love means never having to say you're sorry, not true, to Jerry Maguire, right? We have Tom Cruise's also lame line, you complete me. Now, none of those things are true. And although it's romantic to sort of think that you can't live without someone, the reality is when you're in a relationship, there's 3 entities in a relationship. You, the other person, and then the couple itself. So the dyad, that is you together as a couple, it's a very specific, unique, and distinct combination that doesn't happen, it only happens when you're with that particular person, regardless of who the person is, right? It's very unique to the two of you. So let's talk about how this notion of love having no boundaries, where else are we getting these messages? Most of it is from the media, from movies, from television, where if you say no, if you are separate from that person, then somehow it means you're not really in love, which isn't true. So I'm going to give you a checklist at the end of this episode so you can actually get an idea of what does healthy romantic love, what kind of boundaries do you have in healthy romantic love? The first thing you have to look at is when you're in a romantic relationship, do you give up the rest of your life? Do you feel like being in love means everything has to be about that person? Do you give up your friendships? Are you one of those friends? No judgment, just saying, we've all had them, right? Where they get a boyfriend and you're like, bye, see you in 2 years when you guys break up, which certainly does happen. But I want you to think about your own life. When you're in a relationship, do you completely ditch everything else and basically solely focus on that? Because that's a level of enmeshment, it's called like this, that is really unhealthy, and it's unhealthy for the relationship because no relationship can sustain that amount of pressure. So when you think about movies telling us that people will make us happy, the right relationship will make us happy, again, that's not true because happiness is an inside job. You have to figure out what makes you happy in your life. And then when you are a whole and complete person, you've done your work, you've figured out all your childhood injuries and all of that bullshit, then you can come together in a relationship and really add something. If you're not doing that, if you haven't done your work, so much of the time we will look to relationships to give us the happiness that we haven't created for ourselves. So remember, happiness is an inside job and you have to handle your happiness. Your partner can absolutely add to your happiness. Being in a relationship can stretch you as a human being and of course can add joy to your life. But if you expect that person to make you happy, that relationship will most likely fail because it's an impossible task. Nobody can make you happy but you. So there's got to be clarity about whose responsibility your happiness is. Because I promise you it's yours. And you're the only one who can actually make it happen. If you have good boundaries in a relationship, that means you have transparency. You know where the other person stands. And in a healthy relationship, you have to be allowed to have different opinions on things, to agree on some things, perhaps disagree on other things. But in the disagreeing, sometimes you just have to get to a point where you agree to disagree. And in many relationships that don't have good boundaries, it's a sense of like a lack of loyalty if you don't completely agree with everything the other person says or what their opinions are basically out there in the world, right? That you're somehow being disloyal to them. But that isn't true, right? If you're your own person, then you're allowed to have your own opinion on things as well. Respecting the other person as separate from you is another really important part of this process. Because what are boundaries? What do they mean? They mean that you are aware of where you end and the other person begins. The goal of being in a healthy relationship and what a really a relationship with good boundaries is, it's an interdependence as opposed to codependence. So what's the difference? Well, codependence means that when something is happening to the other person, it feels like it's happening to you. You feel responsible for the other person's choices, their outcomes, or they feel responsible for yours, or both, right? It's possible to have both. Interdependence means that it's a choice. You do certain things for them, they do certain things for you, but you also have an allowance for the separation, for each of you to have your own self. For example, do you have your own friendships? Is that okay in the relationships, the romantic relationships that you've been in? Do you travel without your partner ever? And hey, you may not want to do that, and that's okay. But if you did want to, would that be okay? And you guys, when I'm talking about this, I'm also, I also want you to be having conversations, right? So much of the boundaries that are healthy get developed jointly in a good relationship. So if you share money, you may not be able to go away with your friends without your spouse or without your boyfriend or girlfriend simply because as a couple, you don't have the money to do that. That's different than saying we don't travel alone because we don't think that it's healthy. And hey, if you have an agreement that you don't travel without each other, and I know a lot of couples who have that kind of an agreement. I myself travel on my own when I want to, and so does my husband. We both travel for work. And I find that when Vic is away, my husband, on a job somewhere, it really gets me excited that I get to spend time away from him because we've been together for 20 years. And so I miss him when he's gone. And I think if he was never, ever gone, I wouldn't have an opportunity to miss him, you know? But these are also agreements that you guys can make together as a couple. But I want you to see that those are boundaries. Whether you lend things to someone, whether you share money or don't share money in your relationship, whether you have separate friends, these are all boundaries. How much you respect each other's privacy. Are you allowed to go to your therapist and not tell your partner what you talked about? Or is there an expectation from them or from you that you will talk about what you talked about in therapy? Because boundaries are not just, we have physical boundaries, right? That is how close you want to be with someone physically. We have material boundaries, which is about your things. We have emotional boundaries, which really has to do with your thoughts as well as your emotions. Are you allowed to have private thoughts from that person in your life? And hey, I think you should. I mean, being healthy. But if you want to share those things, that's okay, but not because it's demanded or not because you're so enmeshed that you're not allowed to have your own thoughts. So I just want you to start thinking about this. And don't worry, I've got it all in a little checklist for you, so it'll be easy. You can just download it at the end of this episode. But I want you to start really thinking about the truth, which is that healthy relationships and relationships that have longevity, that actually make it, they are built on boundaries. They are built on being allowed to say what you like and what you don't like, being allowed to make a simple request, being encouraged, you encouraging your partner and them encouraging you to make a simple request that they stop doing this or that they come on time or whatever it is. Boundaries, when you think about it, emotional boundaries, they're basically you telling the truth about how you feel about something, or asking for what you want, negotiating for your needs. And in relationships that are very enmeshed and with very blended boundaries, a lot of times you're not allowed to do that, or that's seen as disloyalty. So I just want to get you thinking, since this is kicking off Boundary Bootcamp season 2018, I just want to start to get you thinking about your own boundaries. And make sure that if you haven't, that you subscribe on my YouTube channel so you don't miss a thing. And if you liked this episode today, if it helped you, it was more of an inquiry than anything else, because I want you to get an idea of what's going on for you in your own relationships around boundaries. If you liked it, please share it on your social media outlets, and look for what is coming up, because I'm going to have some master classes happening. I've got a bunch of free things that I'm going to be doing for now the next about 2 months. So I look forward to seeing you in all of that. And I want to say thank you for spending time with me today. I hope you have an amazing week. And as always, take care of you.